Hey, third grade, Mrs. Ryan here. Today I'm very excited to take time so we can read together the short biography here of Sacagawea or Sacagawea. Unfortunately, through the years, many people have pronounced it Sacagawea. Even some of my social studies teachers used to do that, but we've now learned her name would be pronounced Sacagawea. So I'm going to try to remember that while we read this today. This is in the back of your Doodle Notes journal. It doesn't really have a page number on it, at least mine doesn't. It does have a very small 65 right here, but you'll find it. It's near the end of your journal, so just flip through to find this page. So I just wanted to let you know that during this time period in American history, we were on our third president. Our president at the time was Thomas Jefferson. That is the same person who drafted the Declaration of Independence. And at the time, we had only really explored the eastern part, the coast of the United States. We were just starting to go out west a little bit. Well, we were really trying to find a route, a waterway specifically, that kind of cut through the United States so we could go on a boat and easily travel across the land. That doesn't exist, but we didn't know that yet, right? We didn't have satellites. We couldn't look down from Google Earth to find the rivers. So we had to send out people to explore that area. So our story today is going to be about this exploration group who was sent out by Thomas Jefferson. And they're having a hard time, but they run into this amazing woman, this amazing girl named Sacagawea. So that's what we're going to read about today. So I'm going to flip my camera. All right, hopefully you found yours by now. Here we go. Sacagawea was born in 1789 or 1790. We're not really exactly sure. She was a member of the Shoshone tribe. Sometimes people will say Shoshone tribe, and that's a tribe of Native Americans. They lived in the plains. The plains are the flat section of the West. Like it's, just very flat, not very hilly. Her name meant bird woman, and she was to become a vital member of the Lewis and Clark Corps of Discovery expedition, a group of men searching for a northwest passage across North American continent. So that's what I said. They're trying to find a route that could go west easily across the United States. Because of this expedition, the growing American nation eventually settled a huge region now known as Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. At about the age of 10 or 11, records are unclear as to her exact age, Sacagawea was taken from her home and family when the Hidatsa tribe raided the settlement where she lived. The warriors carried her hundreds of miles away from the Shoshone lands where she had grown up. So what had happened here is a different Native American tribe had kind of attacked the Shoshone tribe, and they took Sacagawea with them when they left. The Hidatsa tribe then sold her as a slave to a French-Canadian trader named Toussaint Charbonneau. Charbonneau. So we're getting some fun words here. So let's follow this again. So Sacagawea was born into the Shoshone tribe. At some point, her tribe was attacked by the Hidatsa tribe. They stole her. Then they sold her as a slave to this French trader who was down there trying to trade for goods with the Native Americans. Okay. Later, they did get married. So later, Sacagawea and Toussaint Charbonneau did get married, and he was French. So at this point, you have to remember that Sacagawea can speak 3 languages. She can speak her Shoshone tribe language, the Hidatsa language, and she can speak French. So there you go. Next stanza here, or paragraph. In 1805, Charbonneau was hired as an interpreter for the Lewis and Clark expedition group. An interpreter is somebody who translates languages. because Charbonneau could speak English and French. Lewis and Clark realized that Charbonneau's wife would be a valuable interpreter herself, as she spoke Shoshone. It was almost certain that the expedition would be traveling through Shoshone lands. The explorers would need to trade with the tribes for horses and supplies necessary to cross the Rocky Mountains. Since Charbonneau spoke Hidatsa, but not Shoshone, Sacagawea would be crucial for trading with the Shoshone tribes. She also knew the route to Shoshone territory. While the expedition was waiting for winter to pass, another important event in Sacagawea's life took place. She gave birth to a baby boy who was named Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau. It's a very French name. That's because her husband was French. So during this whole time, she also had a baby. Lewis and Clark quickly realized that having a young Indian girl and her baby with them on their expedition would be a tremendous asset. Why do you think that is? Why do you think if there's a group of men exploring areas might want to have this young wife with them who has a young child? Do you know any reasons why that might be helpful? Well, we'll learn about it. Native American tribes whom the expedition would sure meet along the way would understand that the group of travelers had come in peace. A group of warriors would never have brought a woman and children. So that's why it was helpful, because if you have a baby, you're probably not there to cause trouble, right? You want to keep them safe. So by having Sacagawea and her young infant child there, it showed that they came in peace. When spring arrived, the expedition once again set off with the baby tied to a cradle board on Sacagawea's back. During the trip, it was often Sacagawea who reacted quickly in the face of danger. Once, when the boat was full of supplies and equipment turned over, it was Sacagawea who jumped into the water to save valuable items from washing away in the swiftly moving water of the rivers. So she saved all their equipment. They later named the creek what is now the state of Montana after her. She was also knowledgeable about medicinal plants that would help nurse ailing expedition members back to health. So she was a good doctor of sorts, or nurse. Many times when the expedition ran short of food, it was Sacagawea who was able to find wild roots and berries to feed the hungry crew. So not only did she keep them from getting too sick where they would die with the medicine she knew about, she also kept them fed because she knew how to live on the land. However, Sacagawea's most valuable assistance was her ability to communicate with the tribes encountered by Lewis and Clark. In August of 1805, after months of difficult traveling, the group encountered a Shoshone village. Sacagawea translated from Shoshone to Hidatsa. Then her husband, Charbonneau, translated from Hidatsa to French. And then another interpreter translated French to English for Lewis and Clark. It's almost like telephone. This person translates to this language, this person translates to this language, and this person translates to that language. When Sacagawea began the complicated communications, she realized the chief of the Shoshone tribe was none other than her brother. Her brother's name is, I'm going to try this, I think it's Kamawait. She had not seen him since her capture, remember, a while ago when she was very young, and when she was overjoyed to be reunited with him. Her brother and his tribe traded various goods for 29 horses desperately needed in order to continue their journey. So the Lewis and Clark expedition needed horses to help go across such great lands, because they're just walking at this point. The expedition left the Shoshone tribe and traveled for thousands of miles. Eventually, they reached the Pacific Ocean in November of 1805. The men built a rough shelter, and during those months, Sacagawea and her son, whom William Clark affectionately called Little Pompey, became beloved members of the expedition. At one point, Sacagawea convinced the men that she should be allowed to accompany them to Salt Camp, where she witnessed the vast expansion of the ocean. She even got to see the remains of an enormous whale that had washed up on the beach. So this is the first time she's ever seen the ocean. It's the first time all of them have seen this particular part of the ocean. When spring arrived in 1806, the expedition set off to retrace the route that had brought them to the west coast of North American continent. Once again, Sacagawea guided the expedition through the mountains. In July, on a boot overlooking the Yellowstone River, William Clark honored Sacagawea's son by naming it Pompey's Pillar. Soon, the group reached the village where Charbonneau and Sacagawea had joined the expedition nearly 2 years earlier. So imagine walking for 2 years through all this forest and trying to get through places, not knowing where you're going, but Sacagawea guided them. She knew how to get through everything. It was time for the expedition to say goodbye to Sacagawea and her son Pompey. She had gone on an amazing adventure that no white woman of that time would have been allowed to do, because women were supposed to stay at home, right? They didn't go out on these fun journeys. Her knowledge, bravery, and spirit of adventure had given the bird of the wild Shoshones an experience of a lifetime. So she was one amazing person. Very brave. And I thought that was really neat. And the whole time having a baby on your back. Could you imagine? That's crazy, right? It's really cool. So if you look at the next page, or you should find this page somewhere. Looks like this. There, you'll see 6 questions here. You're not actually going to write on this page, but I just want to show you these questions and then just talk about them each for maybe like 30 seconds. So please listen, because this is going to help you on your assignment today. So, question 1 is, how do you think Sacagawea felt about being a member of this expedition? So, when you do write your answers on the document your teacher provides, be sure that you write your answers in complete sentences, include details to support your answers, and show evidence of high-level thinking. So it'd be really great if you found something specific in the text and you brought that into your answer. So how do you think Sacagawea felt about being a member of this expedition? After you restate the question and answer the question, explain why you think that. What did you read that made you come to that conclusion? Number 2, what characteristics did Sacagawea possess that were beneficial to the expedition? Notice it says characteristics, so that's more than one. So perhaps you'll start off answering this question by the characteristics that Sacagawea possessed were, and then you can list some of the characteristics that she had that helped the expedition. Be sure to explain yourself. Where did you get that information from? Number 3, what would members of the tribe think about Sacagawea as a part of the expedition? So what do you think her Shoshone family would think about her, knowing that she was on this journey, helping these explorers? Number 4, how did this expedition take its members from the known to the unknown? So, from the east to the west. 5, why was it important to have Sacagawea as a companion on this expedition? So why was it important for the explorers who were with Lewis and Clark? Why was it so important to have Sacagawea there with them? And number 6, was this expedition about the journey, or do you think it was about the destination? Explain why. Okay? So again, your teacher will provide you with your document. Might be digital, might be a paper copy, whatever. And those are the questions that you are going to reflect upon. All right, talk to everyone later.